Okay, welcome. We're starting to see people joining our Zoom room here. It's so nice to have you here with us this afternoon while we discuss this important topic of the upcoming municipal elections in Ontario. So nice to see so many of you here with us today. Um, we will just wait a couple more seconds and then we'll get started. We've got a few panelists here today, which I'll introduce in a couple of minutes. But we're looking forward to having a nice discussion about this topic and hopefully sharing some ideas with each other on how to make this upcoming municipal election run as smoothly as possible in our long-term care homes. Okay, so welcome everyone. Once again, my name is Stephanie Ventura, and I'm the Director of Education with the Ontario Association of Residence Councils, the OARC. At OARC, our mission is empowering Ontario long-term care residents to understand their rights, share their lived experience, and inspire a better tomorrow. We do this by working together with our partners to educate long-term care community and beyond, to build a collective voice and to create positive culture change. Welcome to OARC's Webinar Wednesday, where we explore topics of importance to residents. Today, we're talking about how long-term care residents can participate in Ontario's upcoming municipal elections. This session is not about who to vote for. It's about understanding your rights, preparing to vote, and helping make voting day accessible and successful for everyone. Please join me in a land acknowledgement. Together, let us now pause as we acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today, from wherever we are virtually participating in today's meeting. Let us take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land we each call home. We do this to affirm our commitment and responsibility to improving resident relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. We acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people who call this nation home. Let us now join in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how each of us, in our own way, can move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Thank you. Okay, so today I've introduced myself already. We also have with us a couple of our real group members, our resident expert advisor and leader members, Laverne Simpkins and Andrea Phoenix. Both Laverne and Andrea have experience working in elections, with each of them being deputy returning officers, Laverne also being a polling clerk, and just people who are passionate about getting people out to vote and making the experience run smoothly. I'm also joined by Sierra Roberti, who is our regional education and home support coach for Northern Ontario. Sierra's worked in long-term care for over a decade, well over a decade, and has been in her role in the home responsible for overseeing how the election runs in the home, coordinating um, with the elections office and being the home liaison, making sure that things run smoothly in the home. So thank you so much for being here, panelists. We'll be hearing some experiences from a resident perspective, team member perspective, and also as someone who's worked for the elections officers. So thank you for being here. Some webinar housekeeping. So today is a little bit different than our normal webinars where we only have the question and answer box open. This time we also have the chat box open. So in the chat box, you will be able to enter your suggestions, your ideas, and we really hope to generate some idea sharing amongst our different participants today and attendees. We know that so many of you are doing awesome things in your homes, and be great if we could share some of those ideas and experiences with others who may be new to overseeing or facilitating elections in long-term care and participating as a voter who lives in long-term care. So all of your great ideas are welcome. We still do have the question and answer box open. So if there's a question that you would really like us to see, the Q&A box is probably your best bet, and we'll do our best to answer those questions for you. The webinar is being recorded. The slides will be available after the webinar. And as always, there is going to be an evaluation screen popping up at the end of the webinar. And hopefully you have a couple of minutes to fill that out. It shouldn't take more than a couple of minutes, and your answers and feedback are greatly appreciated and help us to improve. Okay, so today we're going to talk about why voting matters for residents, how to prepare to vote, how to plan for a smooth voting experience, and then there will be time for questions and conversation, and perhaps for us to highlight some of those great ideas that we're seeing coming through the Q&A and the chat. Okay, so how do municipal elections work in Ontario? So municipal elections are held every 4 years. Ontarians will vote for municipal councillors and also for school board trustees. The province of Ontario establishes the rules that apply across the province, and these are outlined in the Municipal Elections Act. What's included in the act is who can vote and some basic election requirements. However, what's important here to remember for this vote is that municipalities are responsible for running their own elections locally. So this means that voting procedures may vary from one municipality to another. So even though we are all joining from different parts of the province, and we are talking about some of the principles that are in the Municipal Elections Act and in general how things work, there may be local differences in how the election is carried out in your own municipality. There is a municipal clerk who is the main local contact for election information and who can help residents and team members understand voting options and eligibility. So there is in the slides a link to how to contact your municipal clerk. We've already heard from some homes through our forums that they have already been contacted by their municipal clerk, and they've already got details about what time the polling stations in their home are going to be open, and some of those other individual conversations that have already happened. But not to worry, if you haven't made contact with your municipal clerk yet, or the person who oversees the election in your home hasn't heard from them yet, there's still time. And we're hoping that having this webinar in August will give you some time to get those conversations started and be well on your way to execute a successful vote in October. Okay. So a handy little guide that we've found online is the 2026 Voters Guide. So this Voters Guide is a good starting point for residents, family members, and long-term care staff because it explains the election rules in clear and easy to understand language and provides links to additional resources. So a lot of what we're talking about today in this webinar, the information is actually can be found in this voter's guide, which will be linked in the slides for you. Has anyone seen this guide before? Is 2026 the first time that it's been around? I haven't noticed this. This would have been so handy for me when I first started working in long-term care. Andrea or Laverne or Sierra, have you seen this before? Okay.
No, I haven't seen this, but usually the district returning officer can help you out
Mhm.
at the election station, and that one case is you must go to the voting area that they have on your cards. I have done elections where the guy lives across the street and he was in a completely different voting area.
Oh,
And he
interesting.
complained that he couldn't vote in my poll, but I had to go by the rules.
Right. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, well, I hope that some of you might find this useful and can share it with the if you're not the person who's planning the election in the home, or you're a resident who's watching and might get some benefit from this. I hope it helps you. Okay, so some important dates. The municipal elections will take place on Monday, October 26th this year. Voters lists start being prepared on September 1st, but not to worry if you don't get the voters list into the municipal clerk, there's still time. Many municipal offices will continue to add people up till the day of the vote. So even if you have a resident, let's say, who moves in at the beginning of October, you might still be able to get their name on the vote so they could vote in the long-term care home. There's no province-wide deadline that requires long-term care homes to submit resident lists to the municipal clerk. The clerks may request resident information before the election to update the voters list and plan voting in the home. So some of you have already had the municipal clerk reach out and provide some details about when they would be looking to get that first resident list in. Long-term care homes, you could contact your municipal clerk early to confirm the local timelines and requirements that your home could work with in advance of voting day. Residents who are missing from the voters list can still be added as long as you meet the requirements, meaning you're over 18 and you are a resident of the home.
And provide ID.
Now we're going to talk about the ID because it's a little bit different than what's required for people who are living out in the community. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Andrea. Okay, so why municipal elections matter? Maybe we could chat a little about. There's the answers are already here on the slide, but if you think about in your own day to day, what are some of the issues that are influenced by the municipality? So, as somebody who's living in a long-term care home or someone who's working in a long-term care home and part of your municipality, here are some of the services and issues that are covered through the city. Some folks are surprised to see transportation listed there, but accessible transportation can be a municipal election topic, something that you might want to base your vote on or talk to candidates about. So something that OARC recommends is to actually get in touch with the candidates in your area and invite them to speak with residents and with your residents' council to hear directly from residents what matters to them. Something that we found in previous elections is that many of the candidates, it might be their first time, their first experience with long-term care is when they actually go in on a campaign stop. So there's a great opportunity to share with them, teach them what's important to you and what life is like in a long-term care home, how having accessible transportation can improve your quality of life and change how you do things. Did you know that you could still attend recreation programs, the library in your community? Those things don't change when you move into a long-term care home. You still have access to the municipal services in your area, including some of these that you see here. Am I missing any, Laverne and Andrea? Anything else that might be a municipal election topic or
Well, I'll
something
just
that
put
you're
it,
looking for?
I
well,
was going to say taxes.
well,
Taxes.
taxes is one, but in my case, I live in a municipal uh, run home.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, so the different municipalities contribute to running of a home. Uh, we uh, we don't have any direct contact except the manager of the home, but uh, it's being able to talk to them on the conditions in your home, the staff shortage, the uh, price for the food. Now, they don't actually pay for that, but it's some of the things, some of the money may be used for food that the municipalities contribute to.
Hmm,
Uh, you
that's a
can
really great. Yeah.
talk to them. We're fortunate here. Both of the long-term care homes in my area has the bus come right into the home, so we don't have to go out on the street to pick up the bus. That's a big benefit.
Yeah, those are
Uh,
great, great suggestions, Laverne, and such a great point that if you are a resident or a team member who's living or working in a municipal long-term care home, there's an even additional layer of conversation that you could have with your candidates there. Very interesting, and thanks also for sharing about the bus stops. What an interesting thing to bring forward to a candidate about getting a bus stop maybe closer to your long-term care home or slightly in a place that's more convenient for residents to get on and off. Love that. Thank you so much.
In my case, we have municipal transportation called paratransport that comes right to the door.
That's awesome. I've also
but
heard in some, oh,
in my case, it's the public transit system that comes in
Mm.
right to the door.
I've heard about some regional municipalities, for example, Peel Regional Municipality, where you could actually go to a designated location and purchase chits for the same cost that you would pay for public transit, but it allows you to use those chits for accessible taxis. So if you need to go back and forth to appointments or for social events, you could do that at the same cost that it would be for public transportation. So
And we
not
have
every
that
place has
too.
that. Oh, you have that too.
Mhm.
Nice. Yeah, so these are things you could bring up with your candidates. Okay. So why voting matters? Voting is one way that residents can exercise their voice in their community and influence decisions that affect their lives. Residents are citizens, so moving into a long-term care home doesn't take away a person's rights as a citizen. You still have the right to vote, to participate in civic life, the right to express opinions, and the right to make personal choices. Just because your address changes doesn't mean those things change. In
Mhm.
fact, many of you will recognize this poster here. You may have seen it on the walls in your home, and it is a pull-out from the Fixing Long-Term Care Act, the legislation that governs all long-term care homes in Ontario. And it's called the Resident Bill of Rights, the Fundamental Principle and Resident Bill of Rights. And actually, one of the 29 rights here is the citizens' rights, number 15. And that right says that every resident has the right to exercise the rights of a citizen. So again, when you move into a long-term care home, you keep all of the rights that you have as a citizen, and voting is one of those rights. So you can see why, or I understand why so many homes have been reaching out to us for support about this or asking questions about this, because people want to make sure that the people living in their home, that residents are having their rights met. And oh, Andrea, were you going to say something?
I just want to say that I've been fortunate enough that I have attended every municipal, provincial, and federal election to vote since I was 18.
Oh, wow. Nice. You're
I
you're doing your
duty.
responsibility. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Okay, something we see a lot in the Municipal Elections Act is the topic of accessibility. So accessibility, it's not just a best practice, it's the legal requirement under the Municipal Elections Act. The municipalities must ensure that voting is accessible for all eligible residents, including people living in long-term care homes. As LTC team members, when you're connecting with your municipal clerk, it might be important to highlight any of the special considerations in your home. For example, we've already been hearing that the homes who have their polling station times and locations already set, that some of them are finding that it's only a 3-hour window. And before this webinar, we were chatting behind the scenes with the panelists and doing a little bit of math. Laverne shared that he lives in a home where there's 230 residents, and his voting window is from 9 to 12 in the morning. So even if half of the residents in the home vote, that's still about 40 people per hour voting. Told you we did the math. The calculators were used, but we did some of the math behind the scenes. 40 people per hour. And we had a conversation about whether that feels doable and is that accessible. And so I think sometimes things are done how they've just always been done. And there may be an opportunity to highlight this for your municipal clerk and share how the short time window affects people's opportunity to make it down to the polling station and vote. So some of the other things that might help improve accessibility are asking about mail-in voting. We had some residents who brought this up at our recent resident forum that there are residents who don't leave their rooms for whatever reason. And so how are they being taken into consideration? So not every location, not every municipality offers mail-in voting, but some of them do. So it'd be a good question to ask. We've also heard from some of the staff members in long-term care homes, some of the team members who've shared that they were able to organize a traveling polling station where in their location, the polling clerks were open to going from floor to floor and
Mm.
taking the votes there rather than having residents come down to one central location in the home. Again, this might not be possible in all areas. It's really important to check with your municipal clerk, but it could be something that's made available, especially if we know that these types of things are happening in other homes. So it's another reason why we're looking forward to hearing some of your sharing is so, if in one part of the province that's not available, but in another one it is, it could help you make the case that this could improve accessibility in your home. Um, Laverne or Sierra or Andrea, I don't want to move on if you have anything to add to this. What do you think about the accessibility piece? Is there anything that you've seen happen that it helps improve accessibility?
I've only had one election here in the home since coming in 2 years ago, and it seems like the returning officers were very nice and kind and very receptive to helping us out, as far as that goes. And it was enough room for the wheelchairs to get around.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, great. Okay. So something else that might be a surprise, it certainly was for me when I started working in long-term care and helping to organize the election, is that in Ontario, in Canada actually, um, there is no cognitive test that is required by the elections people. In the Municipal Elections Act, um, there's nothing in there that says that having dementia or another form of cognitive impairment excludes you from voting. So it's something to keep in mind. The Municipal Elections Act focuses on voter eligibility and accessibility, as we've mentioned, not on cognitive testing. Residents who are living with dementia or other cognitive impairments retain their voting rights unless they don't meet the basic voter eligibility requirements set out in the Act. So the age, the location of their address, that type of thing. For residents who are living with dementia or other cognitive impairments, the key question to ask is whether the individual is able to express a voting choice at the time of voting, not a diagnosis. So in the Act, it doesn't authorize election officials to administer cognitive assessments or determine whether a voter has sufficient capacity. If an eligible voter wishes to vote and can communicate their choice, then accommodations should be made to provide support for them to participate. Voting rights also remain with the resident. So holding a power of attorney for property or personal care doesn't give someone the legal authority to cast a ballot for that resident. Only a properly appointed voting proxy can vote on another person's behalf where proxy voting is permitted by the municipality. Laverne, I think we chatted a little bit about this before, and you were sharing that when you were a returning officer, you didn't turn anyone away. There was very limited reasons why someone would be turned away. And you shared that as long as the person could make the choice, they could be supported in doing that. And you didn't have to physically be able to fill out the card. There's supports that are available to help you with that. But as long as they could make the choice. Did you want to share a little bit about that with us? Oh, did we lose Laverne? Oh, no, Laverne's there.
Laverne, we
Uh,
have you on mute.
While Laverne's trying to unmute, Sierra, is that something that you came across in your homes as well, in the homes that you supported? Did you find that there maybe was a misconception that people needed to have a certain level of cognitive ability or be absent of certain conditions to be able to vote?
The homes in our case, they typically would use what was called the CPS score, so the cognitive performance scale, which is calculated using point click care. The home would often review the most current CPS score to kind of get a determination in terms of how many residents in the home may be interested and able to vote based on cognitive status. But like you had mentioned, every resident, regardless of cognitive status, reserves the right to vote. So it would kind of give us a general baseline, but ultimately
Mm,
we would have multiple activity staff, frontline staff, volunteers in supporting the residents in the home to ensure that every single resident was provided with the opportunity to vote. And we'd work collaboratively with the elections team to make sure that the residents had that opportunity to vote. But I see Laverne is off mute, so I will pass it over to you to answer from
Okay.
a resident perspective.
thanks,
Well,
Sierra.
uh, I never turned a person away, as long as they had the proper identification. Uh, and I could take, for instance, to a paycheck stub or a bank statement, and I could take those two and not bother with the picture. Um, there are certain aids that are done. If you have a blind person, no problem. There's a sheet that goes over the voting card that tell the blind people can feel and know who is voting for. You have the DRO that can go through the names and the number, and you can tell the DRO, well, I like number 5, and they'll mark it for you so that you don't need to uh, even be able to write as long as you can tell the person who you want to vote for. Um, we have, in other cases, every voting station has a magnifying glass for those that would rather have it blown up. So they try and uh, make each uh, person able to vote, and it's uh, you know, under the legislation of handicapped legislation that this has to be done.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Sierra, for mentioning some of the practical considerations for even just getting a ballpark number of residents for planning purposes. But I really appreciated how you said or acknowledged that even with CPS scores or assessments that have been done indicating a person's level of cognitive impairment at a particular time, we know that cognitive ability can fluctuate from day to day or even from hour to hour. So certainly have some guidelines for planning and use the resources that you have for planning, but still important to offer, as Sierra said, everyone the opportunity to vote if they would like to, and they're able to. And there was just something I caught the corner of my eye in the Q&A asking if I could just repeat this piece here from the Elections Act. So it's not about a diagnosis, but whether the individual is able to express a voting choice at the time of voting. So even somebody who doesn't have any kind of diagnosis or score that may exclude them from voting or from being part of other questionnaires and things in the home, they may not be able to vote at the time of voting. They may not be able to express a choice at the time of voting. And so it really depends on the individual and how they are at the time of the vote. Okay. And we talked a little bit about the power of attorney piece. So I'll just share a quick story that I shared before the webinar started with our panelists. Um, when I was first working in the long-term care home and the first election that I was helping to run, there was a family member, very well-meaning, very dedicated family member who was there every day with her husband, who had very advanced dementia and was mostly sleeping and not communicating verbally or in a way that people who didn't really know him well could understand. But she came down with him on election day and said that she was going to vote for him. Said, he's always voted for the Liberal Party, and so she was going to vote for him on that day. And she was quite surprised to hear from the polling clerk that that's actually not allowed. So even though she was the power of attorney for care and for property, the person's ability to vote doesn't get transferred over through power of attorney. It's only transferred to another person through this proxy voting. And the individual voter needs to be able to sign a proxy form, or if they need assistance in communicating that they would like someone to vote on their behalf on the day. So there are some rules that go along with this proxy voting if you haven't heard about it yet. And also something to check with your municipal clerk about to see if there are any specific local rules that would apply to you. But just in general, a voting proxy is a formal legal appointment under the Municipal Elections Act. The resident's vote remains their own. Staff may be able, or may be eligible to act as a proxy in some circumstances. The safest practice is often for residents to appoint a trusted family member or friend whenever possible. A staff member generally cannot serve as a proxy for multiple residents who are unrelated to them. If a staff member is appointed a proxy for one resident and is otherwise eligible, they would generally be unable to act as a proxy for additional residents. Um, each resident who uses a proxy must complete the form and have it certified by the municipal clerk. So residents who wish to appoint a proxy, you're not going to be there on that day, or whatever the case may be, why you personally wouldn't be able to go and participate in the vote on that day, you could assign a proxy, but the recommendation is to do it well in advance of voting day to allow for time for certification. So team members, you might be able to assist residents with accessing the forms. They'll be linked here in the presentation for you. This is kind of a sample of what the form looks like. But team members cannot complete or sign the form on the resident's behalf. That's an important distinction there.
May I just continue?
Please.
You should actually go to your municipal election office and get the proxy signed there and get it and fill it out, because it's best to have it early, and that way uh, you have no problems on voting day.
Good idea.
Uh, many times the proxy has not been signed properly, or somebody says, "Oh, uh, I want to do this for my friend," and it just has not been allowed because uh, there was a complication. So
Hmm.
definitely do this at the municipal before the election.
Great. Thanks. Great advice, Laverne. Thank you. Okay, so voting in long-term care homes, even though your rights as a citizen don't change when you move into a long-term care home, there are some things that are a little bit different about how the vote runs for people who do live in the long-term care home. So long-term care homes with more than 20 residents, this is in the Act, are actually eligible to receive their own polling station. So if you live in a home that's got more than 20 people, 20 residents there, you should be getting your own polling station on site within the home somewhere. And what happens is either the municipal office will call you and try and make arrangements to meet with someone to determine what the best place in the home is for the vote. Or if you haven't heard from them, you can reach out to the municipal clerk and ask that they come on site and just confirm that you are getting that polling station right in your home. These polling stations are only for residents who live at the home. Even if your family member or friends live right next door to the long-term care home, they in general are not allowed to vote at the polling station that's just for residents. Also, as we've mentioned a bit earlier, the timing changes. So think in general, the polling stations are open from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. out in the community. At the long-term care home polling station, you may only have a 3-hour window. So it would be important to find out what your window, your voting window is, so that you can communicate that either with family members who might be coming in to assist with the vote, or with residents and other team members who you might need to have scheduled to come and help support with logistics. And even for planning purposes for appointments, if you've got a regularly scheduled appointment or a hygienist or a dental appointment or something, and it's at the same time as your voting window, maybe this knowing early on will help you make those arrangements if you plan on participating in the municipal vote. What else here? I think we've covered everything. Again, each municipality might vary slightly, and some, as we've mentioned, offer mail-in voting or even internet voting, but this all depends on how they've chosen to handle the vote. So important that one of the key messages is contact your local clerk for specific instructions for your area. There was a question that caught my attention here in the question and answer box. Is it the home's responsibility to set up the polling station? It's not the home's responsibility. So the home is responsible for communicating with the municipal clerk, answering the calls from the municipal clerk, and agreeing to meet with them so that they can determine what that suitable area is. But it's not the home who manages the polling station. All they're doing is coordinating and determining, helping the clerk and the officer determine what the best place is. They may ask for things like, is there a Wi-Fi or internet connection in this location? That's something I've been asked before. They might test the Wi-Fi. So the home's responsibility is to be open to working with the people from the elections office, but not actually setting up the polling station themselves. Okay, another thing that's slightly different for people who live in long-term care homes are the identification requirements. So this is something that we hear often that may cause some stress or worry amongst residents because perhaps you don't have a Ontario identification card, or you're not receiving the bills yourself. The bills are going somewhere else. And so sometimes there's a bit of worry about, geez, I don't think I have the required identification to actually participate in the election, or I don't have a voter's card that I've received yet. So what do I do? Um, not to worry. If you are living in the long-term care home, you will be eligible to vote. And how they organize this is that the election rules recognize that long-term care residents, people who live in long-term care homes, may not have conventional identification available. So elections officials can actually accept documentation from the home itself to help verify a resident's identity and residence. So, Sierra mentioned a bit earlier, there is the chart, the system where all your demographic information is kept. There's a photo of you. There is, your room number, your location within the home, your birth date, that kind of thing. And the home can print whatever is required for the elections office. There was a question that came up in the chat that I saw saying that someone was actually told that they're not allowed to give the list of residents due to privacy. Laverne, do you have, or Andrea, do you have any thoughts about that? I can say I've
Well,
never
first
encountered
of all,
this.
all information that is collected is private.
Yeah,
Even your voting card is considered private. So it has to be destroyed in a shredder. Um, so I would definitely check with the municipality on under that, find out what is missing. You have many times, you have the ID card here that you can see, and that is my ID card, which I had to show at the election for the picture. Um, it has to be a current card, but it depends upon the uh, election monitor, the DRO, and I would suggest you have the home check with the municipality to check and make sure what is needed for the resident's identification. That way
What
you will hit off a lot of problems.
what I
thanks,
found
Laverne.
is
Andrea?
easy. What's easy to use is just taking a bill that has your address and taking it with you down to the polling station as
That's a
Yes,
proof
great
of where you
suggestion.
live.
Yes, but not to worry if you don't have those things. If you're someone who's living in the long-term care home, your administrator, your executive director is responsible for sending the list of everybody who lives in the home, their names, possibly their birth dates. Your municipal clerk will be able to tell you exactly what information is needed, but really your address, so where your room is, your birth
Mhm,
date, I believe, and your name. That
mhm.
list gets sent to the municipal clerk's office, and that's what they use to generate the list. On the
Yeah.
day of the actual election, you can go down. The home is verifying your identity for you. If you don't have a bill, like Andrea said, or an Ontario card, like Laverne said, if you have those and you'd like to use them, you're most welcome to, but you don't need them. We've heard that even, your ID bracelet that shows your name, your date of birth, and your room number can be used. Sometimes the printout that has your photo that the home has. You don't have to do this. The home will manage this for you. A printout with your photo, again, with your room number, your date of birth, could be used as well. So, like Andrea mentioned earlier, the polling clerks are typically very collaborative. And if you're a team member and you're helping someone get down to the polling station, you say, "This is Laverne." They look at their list that you've already provided them with. They see Laverne's name. He's eligible to vote and he doesn't have to worry about having the proper ID. So you might see the signs that say voting polling station here and listing all the ID. If you have that, certainly bring it, but you don't have to if you're living in the long-term care home. And as Laverne mentioned, all of the information that's sent to the municipal clerk, like they have to take sign confidentiality and privacy and all of that stuff. And you're not sending medical or private health information, you're sending demographic information. So you wouldn't be sending, the full face sheet with all the allergies and illness or diagnoses, medications. Certainly, you're not sending that. You're only sending demographic information, name, date of birth, location. And it's to be used for the purpose of the election. So there should be no worries about sending that information in to the municipal clerk. Okay, so a tip is to start getting used to and sharing this idea with residents and team members that voter cards and the typical ID that's required out in the community is not required in the long-term care home. You can check with the municipal clerk, as we've mentioned, to determine when to send in the lists if you haven't already, how to handle residents who have recently moved in, or in one case, somebody said in the question and answer, our home is only opening at the end of September. What do we do if the lists have already had to be sent in? From our experience, and I think Laverne shared, people can be added onto the list up until the day of the actual vote. So as
And,
long as
and the district returning officer will have the forms to add you onto the list too.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so some tips for creating a successful voting day. We've talked about these already, but just to wrap things up. So early and good communication with the municipality and early planning, talking about some of those unique accessibility needs that are in your home. Raising awareness with team members so it doesn't all fall on one person who's coordinating the election that we've heard is typically also the resident council assistant or the programs manager or someone like that. So sharing this responsibility with other team members so that there's awareness that this is one of the resident rights and a whole home opportunity to support resident rights with the election. So how can different departments help? Is there an additional team member that they can volunteer to help with portering or logistics for the day? Especially if it's just a tight 3-hour window, like how can we all get on board with helping to support this important event? And then respecting resident choice. Laverne was sharing that as a polling clerk, he wasn't allowed to wear certain colors. He had to remain very neutral and make sure that it was a nonpartisan environment and not promote one candidate over the other. But respecting choice also means respecting if somebody doesn't want to participate in the vote and you think that they're able and eligible to, they also have the right to refuse to vote. So having respect for resident choices. For residents specifically, so important to know when the vote will occur in your home and where. Is it 9 to 12? Is it a longer window? Is it 12 to 3? It's just so you could plan for the day and how you'll participate. Asking questions early. It's okay to ask questions. Your home team members may not know the answer immediately because there are a lot of new people in the home and things are changing all the time. But it doesn't stop you from being able to ask the question. You might help somebody at the one of the team members as well, something they may not have thought of, and they could reach out to the municipal clerk and ask that question. Consider the issues that matter most to you. This is a great conversation for the residents council or a discussion group in your home. Talk about issues that the municipality may be able to address. And like Laverne mentioned, especially if you're in a municipal home, you've got that added layer. But certainly things like transportation and access to services might be something that you'd like to chat about. Learn about and invite the candidates in your area. There will be a link in that municipal voters guide to find your local candidates. So invite them in. Maybe they come in during Residents Council Week or on Community Engagement Day. Maybe you could teach them some things. I'll never forget some of the candidates we had come in. They left and it looked like they were stunned with what they had heard from residents. They really got some tough questions to answer. Okay, for team members, so help residents access information, plan and assist with logistics, so portering, signage, reminders. You can put up posters. This is a great opportunity to involve families and friends and ask for their support in bringing people down to the voting poll. And some things to avoid, we've talked about this already, but telling residents who to vote for, trying to influence voting decisions, and marking ballots for residents unless you're permitted to do so under your local election rules. Because we have heard from some homes where their polling clerk was just fine with that. And they were able to just hear directly from the residents who they wanted to vote for and mark the ballot and actually put it in the box. So again, things vary quite a bit from place to place. So it's good to ask those questions early. Okay, and some key takeaways. Voting is about having choice. People who live in long-term care homes continue to be citizens, community members, and decision makers. And every vote is an opportunity to share and shape the communities that we call home. You have the same democratic rights as other eligible citizens. A diagnosis of dementia does not automatically prevent someone from voting. Municipal elections do affect issues that matter to residents. Prepare early by checking local voting arrangements. And again, every municipality may conduct the election differently. So contact your municipal clerk for information and guidance. But we hope that this has helped to start the conversation. Some of you may be further along in your planning than others, but always never too late to start the conversation. We are going to go over, I've stopped sharing so that we can see each other a little bit better. And I'm going to take a look at the Q&A now. But anything that Laverne or Sierra or Andrew you wanted to share while I'm taking a look at the Q&A?
The basic thing, if you feel things aren't going right, get out and vote. Because it's your right. And voting helps produce a better society where we have choice, not dictatorship.
Thanks, Laverne. Great message.
I just wanted to say that I think this webinar has been great for a lot of people who have come on to the call. There's some things that I'm learning about and I need to ask questions about. And even though I have experience in the past, it's different in a long-term care home.
Hmm. Well, thanks for sharing that, Andrea. We've learned a lot from you as well, even before the webinar started. So thank you so much. There's been some comments that have come through. So Sue Lee Brett has shared that they connected with the Town of Newmarket elections officer, and they've already done an on-site visit to check Wi-Fi, accessibility, and they're all set for October 26th. Great job. That's awesome. Let me just go through. Heather says that in their home, the elections people always said the residents can use their health card for identification, as most of the residents would not have driver's licenses with them. Is it still okay to use a health card? What do you think,
Yes,
Laverne?
yes, it is. It is acceptable. Uh, it has been, when I did my last election, it was acceptable. But uh, because it has your picture on it, any government issue card
Mm.
is acceptable.
Yeah, and some we've got a comment in the Q&A saying even the cards that don't have the photos, the health cards that don't have the photos, they're still being accepted.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's a great question. But again, if you are someone who's living in long-term care and you haven't seen your health card in 3 years that you've been living there because it's kept on your file or on your chart, no worries. You don't need to go and get it. Again, that voters list that the home provides the elections office, that's all you need. Your name is on that list and you won't need to bring anything else down. I know in some places it's kept on the physical chart. So yeah, if you've got it with you, sure, bring it down, no worries. Let's see what else we have here. Mark is saying that at the home they're at, they usually print the admission record for residents if needed. Great idea. Yeah, I'm sort of out of practice. I can't remember what the records are called now. I want to call it a face sheet. I don't know if it's called that anymore, but thank you for sharing the admission record. Okay, let's see. Another question about health information. So this person is saying that they're not able to share resident names or lists with anyone outside the circle of care, as it is private health information or personal health information, unless expressly permitted under the FIPA. It requires consent. I would check with that. Again, contact your municipal clerk and ask them about that because there are rules in the Municipal Elections Act. I'm not suggesting that they trump FIPA, but again, I believe these are demographic. This is demographic information that we're talking about, not private health information. But certainly contact your local clerk and get that sorted out with them. Because again, it is a citizen's right to participate in the vote. And if sharing people's address and names is what's required, uh, without any additional personal health information, then I think that's an important thing to clarify with the municipal clerk.
I would
And
definitely
again,
go,
yeah,
I
just
would
to
definitely go
reinforce,
to the
this is,
municipal clerk to check on that because all information, even your name and address, is considered private information under the Elections Act.
yeah, so they
So
keep
it's
that information
nothing,
private.
they don't advertise it, they don't put it anywhere. Once it's used to identify you and taken back to the office, it's shredded.
Yeah, thanks, Laverne. Okay, Donna has said that they have already invited uh, candidates who are campaigning in their community to be part of their community engagement day. Great idea. Thanks for sharing that. Lexi has asked if we have any poster resources that are accessible in big print. That's a great question, and we currently don't have anything yet, but it could be something that we work on. I've sent a request. I've been working with someone at the provincial office on some of the questions that we're seeing come through from the long-term care homes, and posters was one of them. So we'll keep you up to date with whatever we hear back from them. We specifically mentioned that the bit about the required ID sometimes causes stress for people, and are asking if homes could create, or someone could create a poster that is specific to what's required in long-term care, so there's no confusion between what's required in the community and within the home.
Might I
Okay,
suggest, might I suggest that you contact your local people and ask them for signs because they have the election sign that is like a banner that you could use. You can have uh, the home or anyone in the home could make up a poster to say what day the election is and what time so that you can make aware of things ahead of time.
great idea. Thank you. I've got a couple of folks who have shared that they have asked the elections officer, or they've let the elections officer know that there are a few residents in the home who can't leave their rooms for whatever reason. And in their experience, the elections officers have been very accommodating in actually going up to the room, to the bedside, to get those votes from residents. So great. Thank you so much for sharing that. If you know, this is helpful if you know in advance and you can already say to the elections officer, hey, we've got, 5 or 6 residents who would really benefit from an election staff member going up to their room to take the vote. That's a great suggestion. Thank you so much.
Would there be some information that could get posted from the elections in the municipality to be able to post up on the walls or whatever in the long-term care home
Yeah, that's a
about
great
voting,
idea.
about
Hmm.
voting.
Yep, that's a great idea. And some of the, if you've got any remaining questions or anything that would make your life easier in the home, and you want to include that in the evaluation that's going to pop up when you close the window, we'll take those back to our contact at the provincial office. And they've assured us that they meet regularly with their returning officers and they're sharing what they're hearing. So we're still about 2 months away. There's still an opportunity, I think, I hope, to make some small changes that would make a big impact for people. So if you've got any of those questions or suggestions, what you think would be helpful, please include those in your comments for the evaluation, and we can forward those along to the person at the provincial office. We've spent a whole hour together and it's just flown by. Thank you so much for everyone who's shared their thoughtful comments and questions in our Q&A. And thank you also to our panelists, Laverne, Andrea, and Sierra, for sharing your experiences and your expertise, your ideas with us. I've learned a lot, and I hope that our audience members have something that you can take away with, if anything, just to get the conversation started. Um, Check with
Thank
your
you for
municipal
your time
clerk.
here. Thank you for your time here.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, everybody. And remember, get out and vote.
Great
Vote, vote, vote.
message. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.